Okay, so roll call, please, Anne.
Commissioner Bainan.
Here.
Commissioner Garrett Penguello.
Present.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez.
Here.
And Chair Zapata.
Here. We're going to start off by reading the land acknowledgement. And by the way, welcome, Robin, right? Okay. I'm glad you're here. It's great to see you. We're going to read aloud the land acknowledgement. One of our members, Sierra, a couple months ago had us suggested we share reading it. So I'm going to ask if anyone's willing to volunteer to read the land acknowledgement, which is either online or actually on the screen. So is anyone willing to do that?
I think I did it last time, or else I would have done it. But
Chair, if you could just call one person to read it, please.
Yeah. Will, you want to read it?
Yeah, sure. The following land acknowledgement statement shall be read at the beginning of each city council meeting and advisory body meeting per Albany City Council meeting action November 15th, 2021. The city of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederate villages of Lejeune. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to these indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which has transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The city of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home.
Thank you, Will. Also, just to mention, there's a land tax, a shumi, that the Segorite, one of the tribes, Ohlone tribes, has organized. So if there's lots of Albany residents that pay that. If you want to check out their website, it's Segorite for some concrete support besides words. So we're going to go, before we go into approval of the minutes, I want to just remind us of our agreements, and I'm going to share my screen. This was drafted, if you can see, this was created in September of last year. This was kind of just some agreements we came to together with past commissions or commissioners. So, you know, Robin being new, just this is kind of how we do it, hopefully in this, in this commission, in order to, you know, keep our work streamlined, to keep us moving forward. So the meeting agreements are, number one, work to keep your comments to no more than 2 minutes. Time is of the essence. Number two, share time, leave space for those who have not commented to do so. So sharing the time, sharing the mic. Number three, raise the hand, use the raise hand function and lower once you've had a turn. So it's just being aware if you've raised your hand and get called on, just put it down so that we have clarity. It says helps with clarity. The fourth, keep our agenda manageable. This is sort of one of the one of the things I work on is ideally to 2 main items so that we're able to dig deep, but also move along. And then the last one is respect for one another, maintaining collegiality and effectiveness. So I'll just leave it up for another second for you all. All right. So moving on to item 2, approval of the minutes. Are there any amendments or a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the minutes.
All right. Any comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask us to do a roll call vote. And I don't need public comment, do I?
No, and there's no one that raised hand, but I do need a second.
Oh, yeah. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thanks,
Thank
Will.
you.
All right. And yeah, roll call vote.
Commissioner Bainan,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Penguello,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
and Chair Zapata.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. All right. Item 3 is public comment. This is time to address the SEJC on any issue that's not on our agenda. And it says on here, the Brown Act limits our ability to take on or discuss items that are not on the agenda. And so this is just an open time for any comments that people may have. And Anne will move you in, just raise your hand. And it looks like we have one hand up, but please feel free to raise your hand if you would like to comment.
Before I let the speaker in, Commissioner Lindsay, I think your mic is down, the volume is down pretty low. So if you can turn it slightly up a little, thank you.
All right, I'll work on figuring out how to do that while the person is talking.
Hi, can you hear me? Good, okay. First of all, I just want to welcome Member Lopez. It's great to have you on the SEJC. I'm really looking forward to your participation. I wanted to speak up because I'm very concerned about the way that the city of Albany is spending our money. And I've gone to the meetings. The city manager just got another raise. The sugar sweetened beverage tax is, they voted to spend a large amount of money on 4 bike lockers at the Bulb versus spending money in other ways that would help more people in Albany. So I'm expressing my concern, and I'm requesting that you set up a subcommittee to look at other ways that could be the money in Albany could be spent. And my suggestion is to start with universal basic income, or also known as direct cash transfers. If there could be a subcommittee that would look into that, do research. I have a lot of information on it, and I just attended a conference recently where there was somebody who knows a lot about it around the world, and he could quote from at least 65 research articles, he said, about the power of it and how it actually saves cities money. And I think that there are a lot of people in Albany who are, their income is not quite adequate, and something like that really shows a commitment on the part of the city to making sure that everybody is thriving equally or has the opportunity to do that. So I'm requesting that SEJC look into that and then make a recommendation. And any information that you would like, if there's any way that I could be of help, I'd be happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Any other public comment?
No,
Okay.
they're not.
Okay. And just to follow up, we are going to talk about the subcommittee structure in a little bit. So that might be a place to talk about direct cash transfers in terms of the type of work that happens in the subcommittees, just to answer those questions. And also, Robin, just to be clear, like if you have any questions, please definitely, there's just time out, get clarification. When I first got on, I wasn't, I was just trying to figure it out for a while, but we're here to answer any question or just speak up, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so moving on, the next part of the agenda is announcements. And are there any staff announcements?
Just that, yeah, to welcome the new commissioner, Commissioner Lopez. He's been appointed by, I believe it was Councilmember Tiedemann. Is that right? Yeah.
Thought it was city council as a whole.
Yeah, Robin, do you want to?
Yeah, it's an appointment by city council as a whole.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. And so commission member announcements is the time you can just, if you know stuff going on and any announcements you want to make. We'll start off with Jeremiah.
Thank you, Chair KZ. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeremiah Garrett Penguello. I have a couple announcements to make. First announcement I would like to make is at the Albany High School on the 1st and 3rd Friday of every month, there's a free food giveaway for the entire community of Albany. It's a local food giveaway. It's a mobile food pantry put on by the Berkeley Food Network. And I do help out volunteering there. And so that's at 1 o'clock at the cafeteria at Albany High School. So make sure community members come on and enjoy getting some free food. Also, another food resource for Albany residents is the Berkeley Food Network. They're located at 1925 9th Street in Berkeley. It's on the corner of University Avenue and 9th Street. And they're open pretty much every day, except for Sundays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so make sure you bring your ID with your Albany address, and that way you can get some free food. Also, there's the Berkeley Food Pantry, and that's located on the intersection of Sacramento and Cedar and Berkeley, just north of the North Berkeley BART station. And that one's open every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And also, the Berkeley Food Pantry provides a mobile delivery to your resident. So if you're unable to go there, ADA or something, they're willing to drop off food to your house on Tuesdays. And all you have to do is call the phone number 510-525-2280. So good luck, everybody. I know food is really expensive, so there's some resources for all the Albany residents. Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements? Okay. I think just a reminder that next month we are not meeting. No, sorry. Is it September, Anne?
August is recess.
Okay. So yeah, so we're not meeting next month, but we'll be back in September. Okay. So we are really lucky, or I don't know, very happy to have tonight the presentation from the Alameda County Behavioral Services. And this is something actually just to recognize Bart Grossman, who was a SEJC commissioner for a very long time, did a lot of work around mental health. And I would feel remiss if I didn't mention Bart. And that Bart helped kind of focus us on some of the issues that the city of Albany has faced in terms of getting mental health services. And so we're here really just to learn more. Thank you so much, Ms. Lewis, for being here today from the Alameda County Behavioral Services. And we're here just to listen and learn, and we'll have time for questions. But thank you for your time and being here tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Are you ready for me now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. I should start off by introducing myself, and then I'll share my screen. I'm Stephanie Lewis, the Division Director for Crisis Services at Alameda County Behavioral Health Care. So I will spend most of my time talking about crisis services, but I can also speak a little bit about who qualifies for ongoing services through Alameda County Behavioral Health Care and our substance use disorder programs as well. So I will share my screen, and someone will have to monitor the chat because I probably won't be able to see it.
We actually don't have a chat on this, on the City of Albany, but yes, thank you.
Okay, yep. Oops, went too far. Let's go back. All right, can everyone see that? And I will make myself small. All righty. So this is a training we use for a variety of folks, and we're going to talk, I'll talk about our mobile crisis teams. We use SBAR for consultation. I'll talk about that. You should be able to learn the timeframes for mobile team response and become familiar with our outreach and engagement teams. So I'll start off with what everybody wants to know is about mobile crisis teams. And so currently, Acbh provides 3 types of mobile crisis teams in the county. And I'm just gonna talk a little bit about what all of our mobile crisis teams do and share their coverage area, hours of operation, and the team composition. So all of our mobile crisis teams, whether it's MCT, which is just mobile crisis, or a mobile evaluation team, which is MET, or CAT, the Community Assessment and Transport Team, provides crisis intervention, which includes everything from assessment for hospitalization, de-escalation, crisis intervention, information, referral throughout the county. So our 2-clinician model, which is MCT, has been around since 1988, and it offers services citywide, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're dispatched through 911 in some cities, or by calling us directly at the number provided, which is 510-891-5600. Then we also have a model that is only in the city of Oakland and Hayward. It's a mobile evaluation team, and it pairs a clinician with law enforcement, and we respond to high acuity calls. So these are more serious calls. We're riding a police car so we can go lights and sirens. And in Oakland, those teams operate from Monday to Thursday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And in Hayward, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we're dispatched through 911 or by calling us directly. The third team is our Community Assessment and Transport Team, which is comprised of a clinician with an EMT, and they provide crisis intervention, 5150 or 5585 assessment. 5585 assessments are for minors. So it's the same welfare and institution code that gives us the ability to send a person to the hospital involuntarily. And so it applies to children. All of these services offer diversion. And what we mean by diversion is if a person doesn't meet the criteria for hospitalization, either voluntarily or involuntarily, we try and connect them to an appropriate level of care to mitigate that crisis. So it could be a crisis stabilization unit, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. Crisis residential treatment, taking them home sometimes it's to a wellness center, a wide variety of places our CAT teams can transport to. And all of our teams try to connect people to substance use disorder services, so SUD services. The great thing about our CAT program is 7 days a week from 7:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. and it's dispatched via 911. When we started this pilot in July of 2020, yes, we rolled out a mobile crisis team in the middle of the pandemic. Those teams were only responding to 4 out of the, I think it's like 16 cities in Alameda County, but we made some adjustments and now CAT can respond countywide. With one caveat, these teams do not respond to Berkeley. So Berkeley has its own mobile crisis team that is responding to Berkeley residents. So we also have outreach and engagement teams, and these are staffed primarily by peers and others with lived experience. And the purpose of our outreach and engagement teams is to connect people who, for whatever reason, aren't connected to care. It could be a person who just didn't know that they qualified for care, a person who has been resistant to care, a person who is new to the area and doesn't know how to access our programs, but also people who are high utilizers of our system as well. So we have a community connections team that goes out to deal with folks who are insecurely housed or homeless at the time of the referral. So we get referrals from hospitals, from community members, from anyone calling saying, hey, there's a person who needs some support, and they may be living in a homeless encampment or sleeping on someone's couch or in someone's backyard, in a car, whatever. And so that team goes out to try to engage individuals, assess what they are interested in and what services they need, and connect them to care. So we refer them to homeless programs and shelters, of course, mental health services, to primary care, substance use treatment, and other social services. There are many people living on the street who qualify for benefits, but for whatever reason, their benefits have been put in suspense, or they don't know how to access all of those benefits. So we do a lot of connecting people to benefits. And then we have our Familiar Faces team, which focuses on our high utilizers. And so this team provides phone and field outreach to individuals who have frequent contacts with law enforcement, or our local emergency departments, or psych emergency. And with the goal of engaging these individuals, finding out what they're interested in participating in, and also connecting them to the appropriate level of care in an effort to redirect them from overusing crisis services if they don't need that level of care. So we provide a lot of information and referral to this group. And then we have post-crisis follow-up, Crisis Connect, which is telephonic outreach to individuals 24 to 48 hours after contact with one of our 3 mobile crisis teams, or people who present at John George Psych Emergency but are not admitted to the hospital. So an example is a person having some kind of mental health crisis. They are either sent to the hospital or present at the hospital, but they don't reach the acuity for admittance to the hospital. So these people are provided with referrals and referred out. And so our post-crisis follow-up team reaches out to them to prevent a subsequent crisis, encourage follow-up care, and linkage to further services, further crisis assessment, and care coordination. We have also started to do in-reach at John George Psych Emergency. So we go in as people are being discharged to connect them, because not everyone has a place to stay and not everyone has a phone. And we also do follow-up for Willow Rock, which is the psychiatric hospital for youth 12 to 17. And we do follow-up for children who present at Children's Hospital, Oakland, and that is for kids up to 11 years old. We also have a geriatric assessment and response team called GART. And so this provides services to individuals we consider older adults, which is 55 and older. And when I say that as a 50-year-old woman, it kind of makes me laugh, because I'm like, I'm 5 years from being an older adult. But what we have found in our research is that individuals who have a severe and persistent mental illness, or living on the street, so homeless individuals, people without homes, I should say, often are aging at 20 to 25 years older than their real age. And so we may be dealing with a person who is 50, but because of their difficulties, is actually functioning at a level of a 7-year-old. So that's why we consider 55 and older adults. And so the aim is to resolve the mental health needs within 60 days, meaning that we assess what those individuals need and connect them to ongoing care. So it's really an assessment and engagement team. And so we provide short-term treatments with a focus on independence, alternatives to hospitalization, and integrated approaches to care. We do a lot of referrals for benefits, in-home support, to primary care, to deal with a lot of co-occurring medical conditions, as well as mental health. And so, of course, we provide crisis intervention, evaluation, assessment, consultation to a wide range of providers, including the neighbors, the community, anyone who calls us to get more information about someone they're working with who is an older adult. And we provide short-term case management, brief therapy, linkage, community outreach and education. And we do a lot of support with family members around how to care for an older adult who may have a serious and persistent mental illness. And so how do you reach us? And so if you are calling to refer a person to one of our outreach and engagement teams or our mobile teams, you can call us directly Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Of course, if it's an emergency, you would go through 911. Our CAT team is actually dispatched through 911. And so if you think about late into the night or weekends, you would be going through your local law enforcement agency to request the CAT team. So we do receive voicemails 24/7, meaning that if you are a provider or a community member and you want us to follow up with someone and it's not urgent, it's more of a chronic issue, like a person who is homeless or maybe living in a house, but the house may be hoarded and there's a suspicion that there's a mental health component involved, you can always call us anytime and leave a voicemail and we will follow up within the next business day for most referrals. Most of our mobile crisis teams are generated by law enforcement, but we receive referrals from anyone. So anyone can call this number, 510-891-5600, and ask to speak to an on-duty clinician who will determine the best team to respond depending on what's going on with the individual referred. And so we use SBAR for consultation. This comes from the medical field. We use it in mental health because it's a great way to just organize your thoughts when you're calling to refer or calling to consult. And so we're gonna ask you what's going on right now. So what's the situation? And so the example here is, I've been working with a woman who's been living in an encampment for 6 months. She appears to have mental health issues of concern. Others report that she's often talking to herself in distress, dressed inappropriately, and seems paranoid. And so we're going to ask, well, what information do you know about her? Do you have any background information? And so for this particular case, the person knew this person had talked to them, and they said that, she had been homeless after her grandmother died last year. And as a child, she was in therapy and prescribed meds for childhood trauma. And then we would like to know, what do you think is going on? So what's your assessment? We know that folks are calling. Some are providers, mental health providers, many are law enforcement or some community members. So we're not asking you to give us a clinical assessment, but what do you think is going on? And so an example here is this person needs to be evaluated for hospitalization, or she needs to be connected to care, or even saying, I don't know what the person's need, but this person isn't doing well. And then what are you asking for? What's your recommendation? So it may be, can someone just come talk to this person? Can she be connected to services or evaluated for hospitalization? If it's a provider calling, we often ask for them to also show up for a warm handoff. So if it's a mental health provider, some kind of social worker or someone, we say, well, we'll show up with you and you can introduce us and then we'll take it from there. Of course, for any emergencies, you got to dial 911. You want to start with that. And when I say emergencies, this is, imminent danger to self, others, or some kind of medical condition. Sometimes people are presenting a particular way, and it may be mental health, it may be medical, it may be both. So if you suspect that it is something urgent, call 911. Crisis services response time. So for our mobile crisis teams, we try to get to calls within 20 to 30 minutes. But of course, it depends on the type of call, the location, traffic, law enforcement, if they have to be on scene, and EMS response. So we transport 5150s in most of the county through our EMS contract, which is through Falck. I know other cities have different transports. I think Albany actually does. The city of Alameda does. Berkeley does. And so depending on if our teams are responding, we would be utilizing the transport that you utilize regularly per your protocols in your city. And so post-crisis follow-up follows up with folks 24 to 48 hours after a crisis event. we make at least 3 attempts, and we can refer to our other crisis services for field follow-up as needed. And like I said, we do in-reach at John George Psych Emergency. Our other outreach teams like GUARD and Familiar Faces Community Connections, we will go out same day or as soon as possible. And our efforts will continue as long as appropriate and or until the individual is connected to care. These services are voluntary. So the only time we can force a person into treatment is if they meet the criteria for a 5150. And when I say force, meaning we can send them to the hospital involuntarily. And depending on their presentation in the hospital, they can be put on subsequent holds like 5150, 5250, 5350. But there's a legal proceeding for each step of that. So we often encourage folks to participate. We don't want to harass people, but we know that some people may not have the insight or the willingness to participate. And sometimes they're just not buying what we're selling. You know, we have a certain set of services and we try and meet the needs of those that we encounter, but sometimes people just aren't interested. So it takes a while for us to engage those folks. So there are situations that do require law enforcement and or paramedics to be on scene. If you're ever calling 911 for a mental health emergency, you want to ask for a CIT officer. So this is a police officer who has crisis intervention training. We have, Acbh in collaboration with the Oakland Police Department has been providing crisis intervention training for 6 or 7 years. And so most law enforcement agencies have the goal of training 100% of their officers. Of course, there's retirements and, you know, turnover and new staff coming on. So CIT training, that's redundant, CIT is offered once a month. And so, you know, the way you recognize an officer who has CIT, they have a gold pin that says CIT that they wear on their lapel. And so when you're calling 911, they're going to ask you some of the same SBAR questions, like what's happening now? What do you think the person needs? Have you called the law enforcement before on this person? And if you know any history like hospitalizations, any symptoms like paranoia, hallucinations, depression, whatever you need, whatever symptoms would be helpful in explaining what's going on in the moment. And so when you call law enforcement, you just want to say that this is a mental health call. If there's no crime that's been committed, no one's in imminent danger, you just need to say that. And so that helps the dispatcher understand what type of call it is. Because I do know a lot of communities don't feel comfortable calling law enforcement. Our mobile crisis teams do not have to respond with law enforcement, but we do often because of the nature of the call. So if there is any violence, weapons, the person is barricaded, if there's the need to detain the person in order to get them from where they are into the back of an ambulance, we would need law enforcement to assist us with that if the person is unwilling. Our mobile crisis teams are designated to write psychiatric holds, but we do not detain, restrain, or pursue individuals, including youth. So, you know, it can be a very difficult situation when you have a person who's, you know, in a crisis and we have to, you know, involve law enforcement to help get the person from point A to point B. And point B is into the ambulance and then to the hospital. And so we do have same-day urgent medication clinics that are open to Alameda County residents who are in urgent need of med refills or evaluation for medication. This is for individuals who have Medi-Cal or Medi-Cal eligible. And so there also has to be a connection to some kind of provider in the county who can follow up with this individual. So it doesn't mean that a person coming to the county for the first time can't go to these clinics. The goal would be for the evaluation to happen and then to be connected through our access program. And I'll talk a little bit about access. So the closest one to Albany is in East Oakland, actually, Oakland Community Support. And then we have another clinic in Fremont and another one in Pleasanton. We have crisis residential treatment programs. We have J. Mahler, which is in San Leandro, Woodrow, which is in Hayward, and Amber House, which is in Oakland, which is unique. What is unique about Amber House is that it also includes a crisis stabilization unit. So this is a voluntary unit where a person can present from the community, law enforcement can drop off, or mobile crisis teams can drop off, and the person can stay there for 23 hours and 59 minutes. If the crisis is not stabilized at that time, the person can be either sent to the hospital voluntarily or involuntarily, or they can be referred to one of the 3 crisis residential treatment programs. So if Amber House has space, they can just go upstairs. If Woodrow or J. Mahler are available, Amber House can arrange for transport for that person to get to the CRT. And CRTs allow people to stay for up to 2 weeks. And in urgent situations, especially with transitional age youth, so that would be for these programs, it would be adults 18 to 24. Sometimes we can get an extension for up to 28 days because there may be some other circumstances that are impacting that person's ability to be discharged. But these are great alternatives to involuntary hospitalization. And then for crisis assessment and care for children, as I mentioned earlier, we have Willow Rock, which is in San Leandro, and this is for youth 12 to 17. And then we have Children's Hospital Oakland is where youth up to 11 years old can be evaluated. Other crisis resources or crisis support services. So this is a 24-hour crisis line. And that number, 1-800-309-2131, will still be active after 988 becomes active. So 988 will be just another number for the 24-hour crisis line that is just easier to remember. It's not an alternative to 911, but it is a quicker way to get to the 24-hour crisis line. And so there's also Crisis Support Services offers a text line. Right now it's from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week, but those hours will be extended soon. So I think the goal is to get them to 16 hours and then eventually to 24 hours. And of course, the nationwide hotline number is available. And then I have the information for the city of Berkeley, Adult and Crisis Services, 510-981-5290, Berkeley residents and their Berkeley Mobile Crisis Team. And so we also have language specialty resources for Spanish. We have La Clinica, which is in Oakland, also La Familia, which is in Hayward. And then we have Asian Health Services that covers the county threshold languages. And then Deaf Community Services, which is located in Berkeley, but they serve countywide as well. Our information assessment for ACBH services is through our Access program, 1-800-491-9099. And this is the entry point for all of our services. If a person is just seeking substance use services, there's a referral line for that as well, 1-844-682-7215. And Access and the substance use access line work very closely with crisis services, and they can refer to us directly. So say, for instance, you're trying to connect a loved one to services and they're on the phone with the Access program and that clinician is feeling like that person needs an urgent response from our mobile crisis team, they can do a warm handoff to us and we can respond in the field. So the Access program, like I said, is a system-wide point of contact for information, screening, and referrals for mental health services. And that telephone service is staffed 8:30 to 5 Monday through Friday by licensed mental health clinicians. And the after hours is answered by crisis support services, so the 24-hour crisis line. So if you give out this number and someone calls the 1-800 number at midnight, it will go to the 24-hour crisis line and they will be able to talk to someone. And so all of these programs work very closely with crisis. And so who do we serve? So we serve Alameda County residents. They have to be Medi-Cal eligible, Medi-Medi, so Medi-Cal and Medicare. They can be indigent, meaning that they don't have insurance or they have health pack through the county. Individuals with moderate to severe mental health symptoms. So this is significant impairments, functional impairments due to a mental health symptom. And we do have some diagnoses that are excluded. So a primary diagnosis, for example, of intellectual disability. Our crisis response program that's our old name. Crisis services, our mobile crisis team can go out to evaluate that person, if there's an emergency, but connecting them to ongoing care would really be through the regional center. It wouldn't be through Acbh. And so that would be the same for a traumatic brain injury. We would refer that person to a medical provider, medically induced disorders, and dementia, Alzheimer's. Of course, we get a lot of referrals for individuals who have dementia and Alzheimer's to our GART program. And so if there's no history of a mental health, a clinical diagnosis that's included in our services, we would be connecting them to a provider that specifically treats dementia or Alzheimer's. And so that's just something to think about. Like I said, mobile crisis team can serve anyone, regardless of insurance, history, functional impairments, anyone experiencing a mental health crisis within Alameda County. They don't need to be residents, just in the county at the time of the crisis. And so what is specialty mental health services? That's Alameda County Behavioral Health Care. So these are services for folks who have a mental illness or emotional problem that a regular doctor, meaning, I should change that. That's kind of awkward. I'm not a regular doctor, primary care doctor cannot treat. And so there's a lot of mental health conditions that are treated by primary care doctors, like anxiety or depression. But if a person's anxiety or depression is causing them so many functional, a decline in their day-to-day functioning, they're often referred to specialty mental health. And so if a person, for example, has a schizophrenic a diagnosis of schizophrenia, doesn't necessarily mean they must be treated by Acbh, but if that schizophrenia is causing them significant difficulty in their relationships, their employment, their education, activities of daily living, then they would be referred to us. And so our specialty mental health services include, of course, just basic mental health services, which is like therapy, right? And medication support, targeted case management, crisis intervention, crisis stabilization, adult residential treatment programs. I mentioned those like J. Mahler, Amber House, Woodrow, crisis residential services, day treatment, day rehab, psychiatric inpatient hospitalizations, psychiatric health facilities. In addition to specialty mental health services listed above, children, or I should say youth, 21 and under, may have access to additional services. And then we have substance use disorder system of care, and it includes outpatient, intensive outpatient, recovery residences, residential treatment, withdrawal management, opioid treatments, through Cherry Hill Detox and some residential facilities, like Bonita House runs a facility in Berkeley that Alameda County residents can access. And so the referral helpline is listed there. And for urgent withdrawal management and support, you can contact Cherry Hill. Cherry Hill is located in San Leandro. It's our only sobering and detox center in the county. We need more. These are just some references. I'll make sure to send this slide deck out for further information. And I know I provided a lot of information, quick information, so we can open it up for questions, and I will stop my sharing.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lewis, for being here tonight. I want to actually open it up to public comment first, and then we'll go around to the commissioners for any follow-up questions they may have. So We're going to put 3 minutes on the clock, and please raise your hand if you're in the public and have any questions or comments that you would like to make on this item. All right, I see one hand, and if you can move, there's another. If you can start moving people in, Anne. You there, Rosemary?
I am. I just wanted to say, Ms. Lewis, thank you so much. My head is a little bit spinning, but I do appreciate the information. And I apologize because I was a wee bit late getting on, but I wanted to just ask you from a lay person, you know, in the community, or, you know, can anybody in Albany call these numbers? Like, for instance, if we see somebody on the street or we have a neighbor or family member, it's okay to you. And then are you able to arrange for these services, you know, in Oakland and the various places that you're describing? I just appreciate a little more information on that. Thank you.
Yes, so anyone can call us, anyone can call the access number, anyone can call the 24-hour crisis line. So depending on what the need is, we will triage the call and determine who needs to respond and when. So for example, we received a call from, an example today, the Piedmont Police Department had contact with a person who needed to go to the hospital. Her parents live in a different state. She's living in Piedmont, and they had to send her to the hospital. And so Piedmont Police Department referred the parents to us to provide information on connecting the daughter to ongoing care. And so that's a frequent referral that we get after the fact. We also get calls all the time for an individual who is aggressively panhandling, and they're suspected that there may be a mental health or substance use component. So they'll just call us and say, hey, there's a guy on the corner of San Pablo and something, and looks like they need mental health assistance or connection to care. And here's a description, because I don't have the person's name. And so we will make every effort to make contact. And then we respond to schools, to homes, to anywhere a person who is experiencing a mental health crisis needs some kind of outreach. One of the great things that we recently did over the last year and a half is we designated all of the emergency departments in Alameda County to be able to write 5150s. And so we're trying to, as much as possible, eliminate the need for law enforcement for calls, mental health calls where law enforcement isn't required. And so people can walk into emergency departments as well to get an evaluation for hospitalization. And so that is something we put out to the community as well. But anybody can call us. Anybody can call Access, 24-hour crisis line, share the numbers widely.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Our next speaker.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really interesting. I agree with Rosemary that it was like my head is spinning too, because at the beginning you listed there was this list of places, and then at the end there was, I just can't tell them apart. Like when you say that anybody in Alameda can call, but can anybody in Alameda call MCT, MET, MCT, or CAT, or is it just that they can call? This is my first question. Or can they just call your crisis line, which is different? I mean, I'm having trouble like understanding that. And then I know that some of them, you said you can call a number or call 911. And I'm wondering, in Albany, if you were to call 911, you would get a police officer. Would then they refer you to one of these things if you are allowed to use them in Albany? And then my other question is, have Albany police officers received the CIT training? And if so, that's great. If not, do you know why not? And is there a charge for it? Or do you have to be in Oakland or Berkeley to get the training? And let me see what else. Oh, and then I just had a question about the telephonic follow-up. Like if you follow up with people, but they don't have a telephone. So how do you follow up with people if they don't have a telephone? So that's
okay. So,
sorry for so many of them.
No worries, there are 4, so you'll have to help me. So the first one is CIT training, that's easy. So Albany Police Department are invited to the trainings. How many of their officers have been trained? I don't have that information. I would have to go ask the OPD, they keep records of it. There is a cost, but it's minimal. I think it's like $25 per participant, but most law enforcement agencies are sending a few officers each month because it's a week-long training. And so if you think about, you know, how busy law enforcement, everybody's understaffed, so they can't send the whole police department at once. But I know definitely, because I have provided the training that Albany has been in the room. Okay, so for the numbers, there are many ways to access the services through Alameda County. If you're just trying to refer someone, call the access line. If a person's in crisis and they want to call the 24-hour crisis line, you can use that number. To request our mobile crisis teams, you can go through 911 in Albany for law enforcement to arrive, if that's what's needed. Law enforcement can request the mobile crisis team. And you could also just call us directly. So it's 911 or our main number, 510-891-5600 is the direct number for us. So it's 911 or the direct number. All those other numbers can be used by a person who's experiencing a crisis, or you can call and consult. So there are many numbers to call. And I can, like I said, I will make sure that the slide deck is sent to the group and then you can distribute. I'll send it in a PDF so it can be edited. So that's 2 questions. There was another one, which I can't remember.
I didn't write them down. Anne, is it possible to let Julie? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for the answer so far. It was great. One of the other questions was when you follow up by telephone, how do you do that if the person doesn't have a telephone?
Oh, yeah.
And I think we covered the other question. The 4th one was sort of covered in the other stuff. So.
Okay. And so the great thing about us is that we use the phone and we do field outreach. So if we're trying to reach out to someone and we have information that they're homeless, they don't have a phone, we send one of our teams to a location to meet with them. That is also the reason why we go to different hospitals, including psych emergency, to meet with people, because some of the people being discharged from there aren't housed and they don't have a phone. So we make every effort to meet with people face to face if we can't reach them by phone.
Okay, we have another.
Can I be heard? Hello?
Yes, you're up.
This is Bart Grossman. Because of my various health issues, as you're aware, I'm in chemo at the moment, and so I'm too weak to be a regular member, but I have been a member, and I wasn't going to miss this meeting, and because I've been pushing for it for over a year. And I also was a member of the Berkeley Mental Health Commission when Albany was part of that. I know some of my colleagues have questions, as I do, about how that transformation from Berkeley, which is our next door neighbor, to Alameda, which is a significant distance away, how that happened and what was taken into account to make that possible, and also what the consequences have been in terms of numbers of people being seen, in terms of what people are able to access from Albany now, since we have no mental health services to speak of in Albany except for private practice. But the thing I want to ask is, because I discussed this with the Berkeley Mental Health director some years ago. As you probably know, mental health services are becoming more and more difficult to access. There are fewer and fewer people in practice. It's more and more difficult, even for people who have insurance or Medicare, to find a practitioner. And a great number of the practitioners in our local area refuse to accept insurance and instead demand a regular payment. So so I'm wondering what the county is doing about the fact that you have a large number of people who may need mental health services, but are not eligible for Medi-Cal, because the purpose of mental health is not just to address Medi-Cal. The purpose of community mental health, as you know, was to address mental health in our communities broadly. So this is a significant problem, and it seems to me it's the county's problem, among others. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about that.
So I have many thoughts, but I can't really, I'm not at the level of making that level of decisions. I mean, Alameda County Behavioral Health Care is the Medi-Cal carve-out for specialty mental health. That is our target population. And so I oversee the crisis services, which are available to all. But for ongoing care, our population, our focus, our mandate is for the Medi-Cal population. And so we know that there are many people, because we get calls at our access line, who are privately insured, who want to pay out of, private pay. That is not the focus of ACBH's services. And so I'm not minimizing by any way, the importance of having mental health services available to all, but our focus is on the Medi-Cal population. It really is, for ongoing care.
And Ms. Lewis, do you have any comment about that switch from Berkeley to Alameda?
You know what, I don't, because it is a far complex conversation, and I wasn't at the table for those conversations. I know that at some point there was a discussion, and I was just told that my mobile crisis team now had to respond to the city of Alameda. I mean, sorry, we have to respond to Alameda too, but Albany, sorry about that. Sorry. And I worked at Berkeley Mental Health on the mobile crisis team many years ago and responded to the city of Albany. So I know that the proximity is more convenient for everybody involved. And so we are making every effort to get to Albany as quickly as we can when we get a request for care. We did run some data, and we actually received it from Berkeley over, I don't know, a few years, and I don't know the exact time period, but our average call per month in the city of Albany for a mobile crisis is 4. So 1 a week.
Thank you. That is very helpful. I think that, I just continue to, wonder about this question, which, Bart brought up and is burning for a lot of people, right? Is what are we going to do about increasing access to mental health services? And your clarity on, what population the mobile crisis serves is really helpful. And there's more work to do, obviously, for us here in the city of Albany. I want to make sure that commissioners have time to ask questions. I have a couple questions as well. So feel free to raise your hand. And we'll start off with Robin, and Robin, go ahead.
Yes, Stephanie, thank you very much for that presentation. I think I could resonate with other folks, and that my head is spinning from all that, but in a good way. I do have 2 questions. I think response for them could be rather quick. So I think in your last response, you're just touching a bit on data. I'm a person driven by data. So I'm just curious, is there any data on impact specifically in Albany that the public will be able to access when data metrics are released on the Alameda County website? Because I have checked the site and I've seen that there's just a little banner at the top that says data metrics will be coming soon. So just curious if that's going to be something available for our community specifically and other neighboring communities. Second question is just curious about what the protocol is when calls are made and people don't want services, specifically for when an MCT team member responds and we see that someone's in a certain level of distress at that moment. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So I know that we do run data on our crisis services and where we are being dispatched to, where people are being treated, and also where they're calling from. So I'm sure at some point there will be information on how many calls we received or responded to in the city of Albany. So yes. And then what do we do when people don't want services? Well, it depends on the presentation. So a person who is actively hurting themselves, hurting someone else, or because of a mental health reason could be in imminent danger, we have the ability to send them to the hospital involuntarily. So in that case, we write a 5150, we call it a green sheet. And so that allows us to take custody of a person, put them in the back of an ambulance and transfer them to the hospital. That, as complex as that is, those are the easier ones when people fit criteria. Cases where the individual has some significant mental health issues, but they don't meet the 5150 criteria, we are encouraging people to access care. We refer them to outreach and engagement teams. There are times when people are referred to assisted outpatient treatment, which is a legal proceeding. It's sometimes people refer to it as court mandated treatment, but it's a legal proceeding. But if the person doesn't participate, it's not like they're going to go to be incarcerated or be forced into the hospital. It really is the use of the black robe to convince this person, like, you know, you need to participate in care. And so mental health services are voluntary unless a person meets the criteria for involuntary care. And so that's why we have so many outreach and engagement teams that try and assess what people need, develop rapport. You know, we go out with incentives like gift cards and toiletries, and, you know, we can refer people to a wide range of services. But there are some people we have been working with for years before they agree to participate in any kind of service. And that's the reality of what we're dealing with. That's the same with people that are housed and have mental health challenges and people that are not housed. There are people who refuse our services every day, and we continue going out to encourage those folks to participate, but we can't force people.
Thank you. A question that I had was just about outreach. What does outreach look like to, I know you said, you know, obviously the police would, you know, contact Alameda County, but, you know, if the public could also, and do the direct number, which I wrote down here, 510-891-5600. What sort of outreach is being provided to, for example, the residents of Albany specifically? And I know if you can just refresh my memory on the metrics of how many people in Albany are accessing the mobile or your all's services.
So for mobile crisis, that's the number that I know offhand, because that's the data that I look at. We usually, before the transition from Berkeley Mental Health to the rest of the county, the average number of calls was 4 a month, even for Berkeley Mental Health. And so it looks like it is around that for our mobile crisis teams now, that we probably get a call once a week from the city of Albany to respond for a person having a mental health crisis. And for our outreach, what that means is, so someone's referring someone to us because they need to be connected to mental health services. Either the person isn't aware of the service or they're problematic in the community. Anyone can call us to say, hey, I have a neighbor who seems to be up all night yelling in their house or doing bizarre things. And I'm wondering, can someone outreach to them to determine if, you know, what services they qualify for? And so as long as we have a location, even if it's a street corner or a homeless encampment, and some type of description, some way we can identify that person, we will outreach, meaning we will get in our car, we will pack up some supplies, we will look for the person, introduce who we are, tell them why we're there. You were referred by someone in the community, a police, loved one, whoever. And we would like to offer you this menu of services. Is there anything you're interested in participating in? And so we go out with incentives, gift cards, you know, to get a sandwich or something like that. We have snacks with toiletries, PPE, you know, hand sanitizer and mask and that kind of stuff, cleaning stuff, supplies, that we will give out to individuals in hopes that they will give us more information and hear our spiel. That is what outreach is. And some people are buying what we're selling, and some people take what we have to offer and say, well, maybe next time. So we have written material that we pass out to individuals, the 24-hour crisis line. We use that number a lot because anyone can call. And so that's what outreach is trying to introduce what we have to offer, encourage people to participate, and link them to care if they're willing.
Yeah, and I actually, I think I must have, maybe I wasn't clear. I'm wondering how people in the community might learn about this service that they might access so that you all can go out. That was the question I had.
So I'm often encouraged to participate in community meetings. We have tons of information. If there's a place that I can drop off information or have my staff drop off information, usually it's when we're requested, right? Police will request us somewhere, or a school, and someone will say, we haven't heard about you guys. How can we access this? And then that's where it starts. So if you have a place or meetings or presentations we can do, that's how we provide the information to the community.
Great, thank you. Jim?
Hi, so I have a comment and two questions. So the comment is, there was a question about why did we switch from Berkeley to Alameda County? And that's, I don't think anything that, well, Anne might know, but she couldn't say, even if she did know. But that's something that that a council did, you know, probably with the staff recommendation. But none of those people are here. So that question can't be answered here.
Can you speak up a little bit, Jim? I think Jeremiah's having a problem hearing.
All right, let me turn my outbound microphone up even more. Okay, it's now at max, and then I'll just try to speak up more. Although my husband's sleeping on the other side of the wall, but it is what it is. Anyway, other people made that decision, and we'd have to ask. It was probably, I don't know what year it was made, but it might not even be the current council members. So people who are not happy about it could start talking to their council members, because this is a council decision ultimately. Now my two questions were, somebody emailed me a question, and then I had a question very similar. It said, the presentation to council made it pretty clear we would rarely be able to access mobile crisis. What is the county doing to make mobile crisis more available, as there's clearly not enough? Do you think we should go back and pay Berkeley for mobile crisis as they generally showed up? And then my question, which was really close to that, I have one other one besides this one, but like approximately, just approximately, how many teams do you have available? And what is the likelihood that if somebody calls from, say, Albany, that somebody's actually going to show up in like what time period? I know we're way up in the upper west corner, you know, probably about as far as you can go, but what's the reality of your, you know, services to Albany, being able to respond to calls?
Yeah, so right now we have our North County team, and then we have 7 CAT teams in the county, and they can go countywide. And so there are roughly 8 teams available. We have more, but they wouldn't come all the way like from, you know, Tri-Valley area that way. So 8.
And are they typically all busy and so that you just can't respond to all calls?
So yes, that is definitely, I'm gonna be completely transparent about that. So there are always calls left at the end of a shift throughout the county. That is true. And so we have, just like everyone else, staffing shortages, especially in mental health during a pandemic for face-to-face contact in crisis work. And so that is a reality. At Alameda County Behavioral Health in crisis services, I have 12 vacant positions I've been trying to fill for the last 2 years. And our CAT team, which rolled out in 2020, is supposed to have 12 teams. We will probably get to 12 teams for CAT, and this is countywide, in August. So for the entire county in August, if everything goes as planned, we'd have 14 teams covering the entire county. That's the most we've ever had. It's still not enough.
So,
it's still not enough.
So just data-wise, can you estimate the % of calls that you're able to get to in a given day?
That's hard because if you just look at calls in Oakland alone, we're probably seeing about 15 people probably more than that, including CAT, probably 20 calls a day just in Oakland. And so I don't have that data. I don't want to just throw out some numbers, but in terms of just the sheer volume of calls that come through, we would need, I'm thinking about LA County. LA County has about 30 mobile crisis teams running at any given time. Still not enough for LA County. There's always calls that need some support. And so this is why when I share this information about mobile crisis, I also share the 24-hour crisis line, because not every person in crisis requires a face-to-face response. In fact, I do know that crisis support services, they talk to hundreds, maybe thousands of people a day. Only 2% are referred to 911 or to mobile crisis because they're able to de-escalate those folks over the phone and refer them to the appropriate level of care, or the person can hold on to the next day when they can see their provider. And so every city is impacted. I think the most mobile teams we spend most of our time in Oakland, San Leandro, and Hayward. That's where most of the mobile team calls happen. And so when we get a request for Albany, it's going to take us some time to get there. 30 minutes, 40 minutes, that's as if the team is available and it's not during rush hour. We observe the rules of the road. If we have to get on the freeway, I mean, all of that is real.
So this person was asking then, you used to work in Berkeley. Mm-hmm. Would we get a faster response if we were back with Berkeley?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. And the last question I have is, these openings you have, they're funded, but you just can't hire? Is the problem funded, or so you have funded positions that you can't even fill? Yeah. Okay, I'm done.
Fully funded. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I would like to say that what we started also is an internship program. We are bringing on interns in the fall because that's how Berkeley Mental Health pretty much was able to support their programs. And we also are looking on different employment platforms because we're really trying to hire people who look like the folks in Alameda County and speak the languages. So that's another part of it. So everybody is great, but we also need folks who, are meeting the needs culturally for the variety in the county. So it's a complex thing, but we are working hard to meet the need.
Ms. Lewis, thank you so much for being here tonight. We've learned a lot, and we have one of our subcommittees is on mental health, and so we have some follow-up work to do, frankly. Jeremiah?
Yeah, thank you very much. Stephanie Lewis, Director for Crisis Services. So I was wondering, Okay, I have a few questions. Is there a 24-hour hotline that anybody can call for just not emergency help to be 5150, but just more mental health questions? What's the 24-hour hotline phone number?
So that is 1-800-309-2131. That's Crisis Support Services of Alameda County.
Okay, thank you. So when it's regarding substance abuse, mental health, is alcohol considered substance abuse in a category?
Yes.
Okay, so if there's a disorderly drunk person, kind of something like that, that qualifies. Okay. Okay, so thank you. And also, where are you stationed at? You know, let's say your transport station. Where are you stationed at, or where are you coming from if you're coming to Albany?
So if we are coming from Albany, we're coming pretty much from Oakland or Emeryville.
So your office or your vehicles are stationed in both Oakland and Emeryville?
No, so that's a little bit, that's not a good way to assess, because in the North County area, which covers Oakland and the city of Albany, those staff don't even make it back to the office. So our office is in Oakland. We have one at 2000 Embarcadero. We have one in East Oakland. We have one in Hayward. We have an office in Fremont and one in Pleasanton.
Okay.
The CAT teams have a station in Oakland, Union City, Hayward, San Leandro, but all of those teams are in the field. That's where they go back to do their paperwork. Most of the time, if Albany is requesting a call, they're coming from somewhere in Oakland.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. So I noticed, I was wondering, by your hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 p.m., I was wondering if those are really the only hours that mental health crises happen, because that's only 9 hours a day. And what happens? So my question is, what happens on the weekends? And also what happens between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m.?
So the CAT program runs 7 days a week from 7:30 a.m. to 11 p.m.
What about the off hours?
So why is there not 24 hours?
Why isn't it 24?
Yeah, we don't have the capacity. We just don't have the capacity.
Okay. Also, you said you do not restrain anybody. What if someone's completely out of control? Do you guys have straitjackets in a severe case? Do you have straitjackets to restrain somebody?
No, mental health clinicians do not have the authority to detain, restrain, or pursue. Law enforcement can detain, restrain, or pursue. And certain law enforcement agencies use a thing called a wrap. They don't call them straitjackets anymore, but they're called a wrap. I don't know if Albany Police Department uses the wrap. You guys would have to ask them about that. But
what I'll do is I'll talk to Sergeant Curlin about that, because Sergeant Curlin is in charge of training for the police department. So yeah, I'm going to ask him how many Albany officers are CIT trained. So I'll get in touch with Sergeant Curlin regarding that. Also, did I miss something? What about seniors? Is there a special kind of something for seniors?
Yes, there's the Geriatric Assessment and Response Team for seniors.
Okay. So let's say there's a service. I'm not sure if you mentioned this already. Let's say you're picking up a patient that's requiring these services of mental health. Where are the costs? Are there costs to the city of Albany, or are there costs to the actual patient?
So if a person is receiving mobile crisis intervention, for example, that's open to everyone. If they're Medi-Cal recipients, Medi-Cal is billed for that service. If they have private insurance, we attempt to bill Medi-Cal, we attempt to bill the private insurance, but oftentimes the private insurance doesn't pay. depending on a person's share of costs, they could incur a bill for the ambulance transport. So it depends on the individual. But for the Medi-Cal population, Medi-Cal picks up that cost for the service and the transport.
Fair enough. So let's say it takes too long in traffic to respond during the day, because during the day on the freeway, there's always traffic. And so is the Albany Fire Department or the paramedics, are they able to respond in an emergency situation with their ambulance to transport somebody to, let's say, John George or a facility?
I believe that already happens in the city of Albany. Those transports are happening whether mobile crisis is involved or not. So police can show up and write a 5150 and send a person to the hospital. The fire department can show up and assess a person. If they feel like there's more going on, they can request us, or they can transport that person to a medical hospital.
Wonderful. And so after you help a patient out with mental health crisis intervention, let's say someone homeless or unhoused, are you able to help them follow up with mental health, such as getting them enrolled in school, or some sort of housing, and get them jobs to be productive members of the society, or you just release them back on the streets and have to pick them up a month later?
So what you're talking about is ongoing care. And I don't, I think it may be good for you guys to have someone from the adult system of care to come talk about that, but I can share a little bit. So once a person is enrolled in our services, there's vocational rehab, there are shelters where people can go, there is educational programs, there's all kinds of programs to get people who have entered into recovery. So meaning they have a mental health challenge, but they're now healthier, they're at baseline, they're now looking forward to, being successful. So yes, there are other programs that people can participate in.
Okay, so your program is completely funded by the County of Alameda, is that correct?
We receive a wide range of funding. We have state funding, we have county funding, we have city funding, we have funding that comes from the federal government. So it depends.
Okay, great. One last question, please. So let's say someone is unable to be on Medi-Cal or unable to pay their bill back. That may create more mental health problems within the stress about paying back a bill. Are there resources for individuals for a fee waiver?
You know what, that would be an individual basis. I know when I worked at Berkeley Mental Health, I had a couple of cases where family contacted me and said, you transported my loved one and we didn't have insurance, and now we have this bill. I wrote a hardship letter to AMR, because AMR was the provider at the time, and they were able to work out a payment plan. So it depends on that person's resources. If they have insurance, if they incur a bill, they can set up a payment plan. So it depends on how they're transported and what their resources are. I don't know offhand a particular pot of money that will supplement that for people through the county. I'm not aware of that.
Okay, thank you. That was all my questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your time here. Oh, Will?
Yeah, sorry. I just had one quick question. Thank you for the presentation. It was very informative and great to hear from you. So my question is, this is kind of like a theoretical, but if there was one thing you could change right now, or one thing that you saw being different in the next 5 years, what would it be, and what would it take to accomplish that goal, I guess?
That's a great question. I think staff. If I had a magic wand, each city would have its own mobile crisis team. And so you would only have to deal with the confines of that city. And so each, more than one, like the city of Oakland needs, we could probably have 5 or 6 just responding in Oakland. And so staffing, right now we have vehicles in Alameda County, and we have more vehicles than we have mobile crisis teams, right? So it's not an issue of even funding right now, it is actual clinicians. And so we're trying to figure out, how do we build a workforce, starting with people who are young, in high school, getting into the mental health field, following those folks through college and convincing them that crisis work is where it's at, or community mental health. If I had a magic wand, that would be part of what I would fix. And also more opportunities for diversion and low barrier walk-in crisis urgent care facilities throughout the county. Also, with unlimited money, we would have sobering and detox in every city. Because think even a person, you know, if you think about a person who doesn't have transportation, right, or resources to pay for Uber, a Lyft, or get on the bus or whatever, a person in Albany has a hard time getting all the way from Albany to detox and sobering in San Leandro while they're intoxicated. I mean, those are some of the things that we're working with. Our mobile crisis teams can transport, but we have some people who are struggling to the point where they don't feel comfortable going that far from home to get treatment. And so more sobering, detox locally, a mobile crisis team for every city, 24-hour coverage, because you're right, crises happen 24/7. We just don't have the capacity to staff it. What we have is a 24-hour crisis line where people can talk to people, but we don't have face-to-face response yet. I'm sure it's coming. The planets are going to align and we're going to get people. So the other thing would be more services for youth, more inpatient beds for kids that need it, and more low barrier, urgent crisis response services for youth. So all of that.
Thanks for that question, Will, and thank you for the answer.
Great question.
Chair?
Yes.
Hi. I'm just, I raised my hand to hopefully provide some clarification for the question that was raised earlier, a statement that was made earlier. So as far as I understand, the transition from City of Berkeley to the county was because City of Berkeley thought that they were receiving funding from the state to cover City of Albany. And at one point a few years ago, they suddenly realized that they weren't receiving funds from the state that was covering City of Albany. And so that's why now it is with the county, since the county is the one that's receiving funding that covers for City of Albany. It's not a city council decision nor a staff decision.
Thank you, Anne. I really just, I feel like we are just really scratching the surface, and that there is so much follow-up to do. I want to remind us, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about our subcommittee work, which is that because actually we have 2 other big agenda items and an hour to do it all. So I want to encourage us to move along and let Ms. Lewis have an evening, and just to say that hopefully we can follow up at in our subcommittee work. So thank you so much, Ms. Lewis, for being here tonight. The information is incredible, and hopefully we'll be in touch.
And if Ms. Lewis can send me the presentation, I can add it to our agenda attachments. Thank you very much. It has very useful information in there, so.
I will.
Did you want to say something before? No, your hands. Okay, anyway, thank you, Ms. Lewis. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. All right, bye-bye.
All right, so Jim, your hand looks like it's up, but if you can put it down, that would help. Okay, so we are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is, okay, so just to say it's 8:30, you know, we're out here till 9:30, you know, we'll do our work, but just to be aware of our timing, okay? So our first item is 6.1, and I want to give a little bit of background, although I do believe there are attachments. So if you're either in the public or if you're on the commission itself, you can go to either the HTML agenda, or I believe there's a live link in the I'm actually not sure how the agenda that you download, but it's called Live Agenda or something. And there are attachments. So if you go and look at the details of this particular item that we're looking at tonight, it's called Consideration of RFQ Response Reviewing Subcommittee Recommendations to Forward to City Council Ad Hoc Committee on, quote, Albany's Racial Equity and Next Actions. So what you're going to see in there is a memo that was written by the subcommittee, which consists of Jeremiah, Jim, and myself. And by the way, you know, it's always helpful if you read these before the meeting, although, you know, it is what it is, but reading these ahead of time is the expectation for the subcommittee. I'm sorry, for our commission. So if you look at the memo basically says that there's this history, right? We had the city of Albany has worked with some consultants. This was particularly in response to the public murder of George Floyd in 2019. This was the city of Albany held a variety of public meetings, and through some funding that the city of Albany put aside, worked with a consultant on a racial equity impact plan. Okay. The racial equity impact plan, which is, you can find on the city of Albany's website, called for a survey. And in the SEJC, a lot of our work we try to do in subcommittees. So the subcommittee that was working on racial equity, Jim, myself, and Sierra, started to push forward with asking the city to do a survey to gauge and hopefully move the needle on the experience of or towards racial equity in the city of Albany. So the survey was really important. So council agreed on that. This was like a big win for us. Was this came out of SEJC. Council came up with an RFQ process, and RFQ means request for qualifications. And we are considering tonight, or I'm sorry, we considered in our subcommittee basically proposals put forward by, I believe it's six organizations. Okay. So Jeremiah, Jim, and I thoroughly read all of those, scored them, showed up, and came together to come up with one recommendation from the SEJC that will go to, not council, but will go to a subcommittee that council has appointed to make this decision. Okay. So our goal tonight is to talk about, vote on the recommendation that is coming from this subcommittee, as I said, Jim, Jeremiah, and I, and either to approve or not this, this recommendation that again will go to council's subcommittee and be taken into consideration when they decide which of the 6 organizations will be funded. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. What we have before us is this item, which is, you know, on the screen. Jim has a comment, and I invite Jeremiah as well because they were part of the process. And then we'll go through a process of seeing whether or not it flies in this committee.
My comment was actually a process one. For all the people who might be watching this on YouTube or, you know, who are here in the meeting, would it be possible to put the memo up? And, you know, it just can be really hard to find stuff on the city side if you don't know how to do it. I wonder if the memo could go up, you know, shared on Ann, if that's okay, Chair. With the memo
I'm pulling it up now.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hang on? So is that your comment, Jim?
Yeah, that was all. It was just to
all right.
help out people watching this on YouTube and going, what memo, you know.
Jeremiah, did you want to say anything?
Well, basically, there were 6 different possibilities, and the way I picked, I know we rated it all in a lot of different categories, but overall, the one that I had my #1 priority, basically, to me, they felt like they were going to come to the city of Albany and actually get down in the nitty gritty and do the work. You know, I wasn't distracted, you know, by all their colorful pages and, you know, and all their fluff, you know, for their advertisement. I kind of focused on their qualifications and if they're really going to come to the city of Albany and get down and do a great job. And so that's what I was focusing on. That's my comment.
Thank you, Jeremiah. If you want to put up the memo, Anne. So, yeah, for those who are at home or watching or in any place watching or listening in, the memo is accessible. If you can see up here, it's accessible on the City of Albany's website, public meeting video and agendas. And so I don't want to use time actually to read this aloud. I just thank you for showing that, and we're going to move along. I want to make sure that there's time for public comment, and then we'll have a discussion. So you can go ahead and take that down, and I want to open it up for public comment. Please raise your hand if you have a comment.
Sorry, I was just listening. Hi, I was just listening and not watching. Is this the thing that included the table that showed all of the different scoring? Is that what we're talking about? Okay. I just wanted to say that I looked at the table in advance of the meeting, and I read the description of the place that came out with the highest score, 92, I think it was. And I was just so impressed by the idea of having some people like that coming into Albany. And I just couldn't imagine the city council agreeing to it. That was my reaction. Like, this is just too good to be true. How could this possibly happen in Albany? So I'm really excited about the idea and apprehensive about whether or not it will actually happen. Thank you.
If there are any other comments, you please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move into any questions or comments by other commissioners. Let's see. So I see Jim has his hand, and then Jeremiah. I do want to say that I think that Julie, your comment is really important, and we actually need to obviously, you know, be advocates. We've done it before, and this is to the entire Albany community, and I will say on behalf of the 3 of us, we were very excited about this organization. And I also hope that they will listen to our process and our decision. So yeah, Jim and then Jeremiah.
Oh yeah, oh, okay. Let me lower my hand. I was just gonna say there were a couple of them I really liked. The Justice Collective though was our consensus. The 2 that I liked were basically a tie. And then, but as a consensus, I was just also, as the previous speaker from the public, I was just like, I read their stuff and I was like, oh my God, these people get it. And these people know how to work with communities. It was just really, really impressive. And I'm optimistic that the council wants this to work. The fact that they listened to the community and listened to the SEJC earlier in the year and reopened the process and are doing it this way this time implies to me some optimism. And this isn't the same council that we had 20 years ago. It's a different set of people. So I think there's a good chance that they'll accept it. But yeah, the Justice Collective is the name of the organization, if anybody wants to look them up on the internet or whatever. And we were wowed. Basically, if you turn these into grades, they were the only group to get an A, right? Out of all 6 of them. So as an ex-teacher. All right, I'm done.
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Yeah, thank you. So how does this work, Chair KZ? Can I make a motion for the rest of the SEJC to accept this recommendation so we could get this approved? That way we could recommend this to City Council?
Yes, you can make the motion.
So yeah, I go ahead and motion.
Okay, thank you. Any comments?
It needs a second.
Oh, okay. Before the comments? Okay. Any seconds?
I'll go ahead and second it. I was waiting to see if Robin or Will wanted to do it, but I'll second it.
All right. So now any comments? Yeah, Robin. I think you're still muted.
Sorry. I'll just say really quickly before we move forward with voting that the Justice Collective is an organization whose work I'm familiar with, or I should say their impact of the work. Previously have done speaking engagement with Santa Clara Valley Waters District. They have their READY office, Racial Equity, Diversity, Inclusion office. And I just want to also highlight that the work that they've done, this specific organization, and their track record is something that kind of would be heralded as the gold standard for expectations. Something that hasn't came up yet, though, is their proposed budget. I just want to be clear, based on my experience working in DEI spaces, particularly up at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, what they're proposing budget-wise is, I would consider a steal for the city of Albany. So I just want to make that clear, make sure that if anyone's having reservations, our voting members, other commissioners, that you could have full confidence that the budget that they're proposing is something that's very manageable and workable, considering what other entities love to charge and capitalize off of.
Thank you, Robin. Appreciate that. One thing I will say, I want to just make a comment that the Justice Collective had, some very deep, obvious awareness of it, just Bay Area culture, and some of the other organizations didn't. I think that's really important. If this goes to council and council tries to, choose another organization, I think it's important. They had a lot of awareness around, obviously race, but also gender expansiveness and things around issues like that I thought was impressive and important for Bay Area communities, the Albany community. The one thing that I will say, and then to your point, Robin, is that their proposal had things that weren't just the survey, but we decided not to get into the weeds with that. That will be the subcommittee. And so we felt very confident that this was the organization. What the budget will actually turn out to be is probably to be seen. I'm really glad to hear your opinion on that being a steal. But I think we were hoping our recommendation would come across, and then they deal with the weeds, right? So thank you so much. Any other comments before we move to a vote? Or all right, so let's do a roll call vote. Anne?
Before I call roll, just to clarify, because Commissioner Garrett Pinguello made the motion for the recommendation to go to the City Council, it is to go to the City Council Subcommittee or ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So Commissioner Bainan.
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguello.
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez.
Yes.
And Chair Zapata.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And just a word of gratitude to Jeremiah and Jim. The three of us spent a lot of time reading extensively and grading these. So just some public words, really, all of us put some real time in there. So thank you. Okay, we're gonna move to 6.2. And this is, again, if you go to the live HTML meeting, there's a memo that talks a bit about this process. So what the Arts Committee is looking for a non-voting member from the SEJC. Okay, this is not a person that will be compensated. It's not someone who actually has a vote, but that person will be able to be part of a process that helps the city of Albany have more public art. It's actually an incredible process that the city has gone through. They've done a lot of outreach. Actually, it's probably the biggest outreach I've seen publicly. When I get my little emails from the city of Albany, there's constantly reminders about this amazing opportunity for artists to do public work and get paid in our city. So what our charge is tonight is to see if we can come to consensus on a volunteer committee member. Yeah, so first let's get any comments. Oh, actually, let me go to public comment first, and then we'll come back to the commission. So please raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment.
Hi, my comment just is I'm unclear on when the city first announced this, they put out a call, and the call said that somebody had to have I can't remember how they put it, but they made it sound like you had to be like a professional artist and you had to have this people recommending you. And to me, it was a barrier because there's a lot of people who don't have that kind of background and they're incredible artists. And a lot of people who haven't had the privilege to have that. And so it concerned me and I brought it up at the meeting and it was ignored. And so I just wondering what happened with that. Are the people that have applied, are they people that, because I don't know who's applied, are they people that are only have expertise? And then I'm also wondering about, expertise and sort of the middle class, privileged, that kind of expertise, or is it a range of people? Because that really concerns me. And then also, so what didn't feel all inclusive to me. And then the terms of the panel, the people that are going to be paid, are they people that have to have like a bunch of letters after their name? Or are they people that could be community members or people with expertise in different kinds of ways? And I hope you know what I mean. It's just like I felt like the tone of the call was really not good. So I'm hoping that despite that, people applied who didn't have a bunch of letters after their name. And I hope that people on the panel, and I don't know, I'm expressing my concern. You probably don't have any control over any of this and you're just choosing somebody. I understand that, I get it, okay. But maybe whoever gets chosen could express their concern if it turns out that some of the people don't have letters after their name and some of the people do, and say, well, this is not really about whether middle-class America or privileged America has sanctioned you as an artist. This is about art and whatever form that is. And I just want to encourage whoever it is to support that view if you do support that view. So thank you for listening to my rant. I'm still mad about it, as you could tell.
Thank you, Julie, for your rant. Okay, so commissioners tonight, if you have any questions or comments, Julie is correct in that our charge right now is to select a member. But definitely appreciate the comments. I see Jeremiah and then Robin.
Yeah, so I attend every single Arts Committee meeting. And back in February, when the Arts Committee was selecting this panel, they had not offered the Social and Economic Justice Commission to be part of it. And so I sent an email on February 16th. I said, please add this social justice project to our Social and Economic Justice Commission for discussion. And I said, you know, why is the Arts Committee working on social justice projects? Please include the Social Justice Commission. And so I said during the email, why is this not on our agenda, considering it's about social justice? And that's the name of our commission and also part of our purview. And so, and also, Julie, you are right. It's the whole process was selected by the Arts Committee, and we as this commission don't have anything to do with selecting all the qualified judges. And yes, they're paid judges. I believe they get $500 each, and it comes out of some sort of arts project fund. But yeah, so I'm totally up on everything that's going on here, and I would really like to be part of this.
Robin?
Yes, really quickly, I do want to acknowledge I hear community member concern there. In the spirit of also just trying to move this agenda item through so we can get our evening through, but also coming forth as representation. I am more than happy to also volunteer myself to be a non-voting member. I'm aware that it's tentatively set for about 8 hours of work. That fits within my bandwidth, but also just to acknowledge that I also come from an art background. I'm a freelance photographer out here in the Bay Area. Just finished a grant with the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, and have finished a couple grants with City of Richmond through Neighborhood Public Arts Grant. So definitely have the ability to give them better perspective for art that is more just and more equitable, while also being that voice. That doesn't necessarily come from privileged middle-class upbringing. But I'll let the commission go from there and decide, because I hear Jeremiah has also pitched himself into the fire pit there as well.
All right. Is there a motion? Jim?
I move that we appoint Robin Lopez to the position.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any comments? Jim, you want to say anything about your motion?
I think Robin has just come on. I think he's a perfect fit for the job across several things. Jeremiah is going to come to the dang meeting anyway. We know he's going to keep going to those meetings and representing us. And thank you, Jeremiah, for having something to do with this, connecting the Arts Commission and the SEJC. You deserve credit for that. But in this circumstance, I think that Commissioner Lopez is the right person for the job.
Thank you. Jeremiah?
Yeah, comment. Yeah, I just want to say no hard feelings there for Member Lopez. I'm great you stepped up to the plate. You know, I want to give you the open arms and the welcome to go ahead and do it. And I think it's wonderful that you're a freelance photographer. You definitely have more art experience than I do. And so for that reason, I think that you would be a better person to be a judge. And thank you very much for stepping up to play. There's no hard feelings at all.
Great, thank you, Jeremiah. And particularly, it's great, Robin, you got to hear Julie's comment and perhaps can take that with you. But let's do a roll call, unless, Will, you got any comments?
No, I don't.
All right, and can you do the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bainan?
Yes.
Commissioner Guerin-Penguello?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Chair Zapata?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, so I prepared a slideshow, and the reason why I did this, it's not just you, Robin, because I think you know, I just wanted to try to put into or codify this whole subcommittee thing. So Jeremiah, can you see the screen? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I could see the screen.
Okay.
You have
Okay,
agenda
good.
item 6.2 up there.
Yes, but I'm going to share my screen right now, and I have this. So what I wanted to do was give a little background, and these images that I'm going to show, you feel free. We can correct me. I could be wrong, but I want to give, as the chair, my understanding of kind of how we do things, and we went through a process to come up with these committees. So I wanted to just show this, and then afterwards get any comments on how, does this seem right? Okay. So, so I'm going to show my screen. So, so this is our subcommittee process. Okay. So we have a work plan, and the work plan is really important because it really specifies the scope of our work. We cannot do work that is not on the work plan. The only way is by amending our work plan by a vote of the city council. Okay, so this is really critical because it sort of, puts a box a bit around the work that we do in the subcommittee. That we do in the commission. Okay, so out of the work plan, we created subcommittees because there are actually 5 areas on the work plan, thus 5 subcommittees. So we have one point on our work plan is called racial equity and social justice. Another point is called mental health, and that report that came up tonight is so critical for the work that happens in this subcommittee. There is part of our work plan is about housing. Part of our work plan is about aging, disabled / homebound in place. And lastly, part of our subcommittees are around, part of our work plan is around youth leadership. So these 5 subcommittees are really the result of our work plan. And in addition, we can't just do a bunch of work on mental health without any parameters. In our work plan, it really specifically says what we're doing within each of these areas. So before I go on, I just want to see does that make sense? Or is everyone, that's everyone's understanding. Okay, cool. All right, Jeremiah.
Yeah, I just want to say it's almost 9 o'clock. Should we make a motion to extend the meeting?
We're in this meeting till 9:30. So
Okay.
we're okay for right now. Thank you though. Okay, so that's that. And the next one, the next thing that I want to say is that each of these subcommittees I wanted to talk about this process. So what we said was that subcommittees would meet outside of our SEJC meetings and draft ideas based on this work plan, based on public comment, based on conversation. So mental health, you'll see this little box here, got a lot of comments tonight about what's going on in the city of Albany around mental health. Well, what they can do is meet outside of these meetings, talk, draft some ideas, and then this loop right here, bring it back. Let's hear from the public. Let's hear from different SEJC members. And sometimes this goes around and around, right? We get information from one another, okay? Is this making sense? Yeah, okay. Now, the last thing that I'll say is sometimes it's kicked out. We make it through here and a recommendation goes to council. And that's really exciting because, we've kind of worked the process. So that's, as I understand, that's why we have these subcommittees, is to do, rather than sit in this meeting and talk about mental health, we go off, do the meeting, there's a public process around it, and we roll our work forward. Yeah, thumbs up. Cool. So part of, just to name, it's really hard to meet outside of these meetings. So I just want to name that. It means you're putting in more work. It means you're juggling schedules. And so no shade if you didn't meet in your subcommittee, it's just difficult, frankly. So I just want to say that up front, okay? So what we're going to do right now is follow this process, which is to hear from each of the subcommittees. And if you didn't meet, you can say that. And for example, the first Racial Equity Subcommittee, we did not meet because we were involved with Jeremiah, Jim and I on that committee. We were involved with Jeremiah on this RFQ process. So we have no report, okay? We're gonna move on, and if you're in the subcommittee, you can share out or say we didn't meet. And then there's another month ahead of you. I do want to say, Robin, right now you're not on a subcommittee. I want to make sure you get a chance to get on any and all you're interested in. We pretty much chose 2 to kind of keep the work manageable. So let me just right now, before we go into subcommittee reports, I want to give public the chance to comment, and then we will go through and hear from the subcommittees. Yeah. All right. So if you have a comment, please raise your hand, and you have 3 minutes. Okay. Yeah. So public comment is closed. Jeremiah, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was wondering, we open public comment up after the subcommittee reports. That way they can ask questions based on our subcommittee reports, because I don't know if the public is able to even ask questions or make a comment right now, since no subcommittee reports have even been given.
Yeah, I think we can do another one afterwards. Yeah, I think there's not, but yeah, so yeah, I'm willing to do that. Okay, so our first committee, like I said, is not reporting. Mental health subcommittee.
So yeah, mental health subcommittee, basically we were just waiting to hear this report from tonight. So we don't have anything to report because we needed this information tonight. So we have nothing to report on that.
Thank you. Housing?
Yeah, so housing, basically, if it's possible, we were just saying that I think it's really important that there's more attention on eco housing, because we have Berkeley food and housing already figured out. The city council just approved $1.3 million. So we have that part of the housing figured out. And so far as eviction, since July 1st has happened and the eviction memorandum is being lifted, there's tenants in Albany that have a chance to be evicted right now. And so I think we need to focus on possibly recommending to city council to invest more in eco housing, because eco housing is a great resource for tenants and landlords to have a mediator and discuss that. So I would just say more attention for eco housing, please.
Okay, and just as a reminder, you know, Jeremiah, and all of us, you know, on the our work plan pretty much has 2 subtopics, and that's really all we can work on, right? So just if you are meeting in your subcommittees, please keep an eye on what we have on our work plan, because that's kind of it, right? Okay, aging, disabled, homebound, right now is just Jim.
So let's be frank. Margie Marks and Bart did some beautiful, amazing work on the previous SEJC. Put something together, but just hadn't quite got it over the finish line to council. And then we had a couple of people resign, so Bart was by himself. So really, I just went on there to help him get it over the finish line, to get it written up and get it sent in. He has all the policy knowledge, he and Margie. So all credit due to them. We got that to council. This is not my thing, honestly. So realistically, I probably ought to get off this, because I ain't doing nothing unless somebody needs me to pitch in and help them get it over the finish line or something like that. So I think what we have is if we take me off that committee, which is realism, is we have a committee with no members. So a subcommittee with no members in it. But this commission did get something to council that was pretty important. You know, it was done by Margie and Bart in prior years, but we got it to them this year, so that was good.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And from our work plan, it's literally aging in place, which is what the people you mentioned did a lot of work on. So yeah, okay. We the last one is the youth leadership.
Yeah, so far as youth leadership, basically sunrising the youth task force. Apparently, it was a task force that was sunsetted, and so in order to sunrise that, the best thing, that we came up with is that for the youth to be involved and engaged with the community of Albany and local government is for, the idea is for one youth to be part of a committee or commission. And there's, I believe, 11, excluding the fire department retirement committee, and there's about 11 or 12. And so the recommendation is basically, if city council could approve that on each committee or commission, let's say the arts committee, there's a youth committee member, and for the social and economic justice, there's a youth committee member. For the arts committee, there's a youth person. So that's the best way for the youth to get involved and to create. The whole task force is the group of youth. So the whole task force is one youth on each committee or commission, and all of them together is the whole youth task force. And they're basically a team of individuals that one person is on each committee or commission. And so that's kind of the idea there. But we could finalize that and get it more organized to where we could present it in September after the August break, to where it's more organized, where we can make something, a recommendation to SEJC for approval, and then hopefully go to city council or city council subcommittee. That way, next elections, the city council can appoint somebody. So each city council member can appoint somebody, or city council as a whole can appoint a youth member of the community to be a commissioner or a committee member.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? I'm going to open it up to public comment before. Yeah.
Am I the only person attending besides?
No, you're not. There's 3 others. There's four attendees right now.
You should be able to see how many attendees popping up on your screen.
Oh yeah. Oh, and it doesn't. It just that's the public and doesn't include because the meeting last night they said that the number included the people on the city council. So then I was
no. It only includes members of the attendee. What last night's council mentioned is there were some staff in attendance, not including city council.
Okay, all right. Thank you for clarifying that, because I was confused about that. So I just have a couple of comments. I would like to see a housing forum, and I would like to see, for the housing subcommittee, I would like to see a housing forum, and I would like to see that forum include just cause eviction and a tenants union. That I know that Margie Marks is working hard on both of those, and I would like to see that happen, a discussion about that, and maybe bring in Margie, who's been working really hard on that, to talk to them. And then creation of a homeless task force. There was one, I was on it in Albany, and I'd like to see that again, but I would like it to include people who are unstably housed or on the verge of losing their housing. So it would be larger than just saying homeless. Plus, I don't like the word homeless. And then the youth task force, I think that's an interesting idea that Jeremiah was describing. So it sounded like what you were saying is having a young person on every task commission or committee, and then they would meet together. Is that right? That they would then also meet separately, and that would be the committee that they would be representing each of the, that was where I was a little unclear. I like the idea of a youth task force. I used to attend those meetings too as the young adult librarian and children's librarian at the Albany Library. So, but I think it should be clear on what kind of power they have, whatever it is, and what is really important to them, and versus what's important to the adults. So I'd like to see that too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was the one public comment. So I think we need to figure out who's doing what subcommittee right now. So right now the Racial Equity Subcommittee is Jim and I. Mental Health Subcommittee is Will and Jeremiah. Housing is Will and Jeremiah. Aging, Disabled, Homebound is Jim. And Youth Leadership is Will and Jeremiah. So Robin, I want to make sure you get a chance to add your name to any of these subcommittees. I will say D, I think we should, I don't know what the word is, put on hold for right now, because that is sort of in process. So yeah, Robin, you have any thoughts or comments?
Yes. Most definitely have all intent to join the Racial Equity Subcommittee for a variety of reasons. I am particularly of interest in joining the Youth Leadership Subcommittee. One, Will, I'm very much aware that you're a recent graduate within the school district, and Jeremiah, I'm very much aware that you have historical knowledge of the city. I myself have an 11-year-old in the school district. I actually have several former students that are in the school district right now that I previously taught over in Contra Costa County. So I think it's a good mold, it's a good mix. It aligns with what most of my life work has been prior to coming to Albany. I am open to any suggestions or points of interest by you, KZ, or anyone else on where you feel most efforts are needed. If it seems where I'm suggesting myself to be works best, then I'm good with that. Let's go.
Yeah, I think that if you're interested in those two, I think that's great. If, and that, this is volunteer work and all of it's needed. So I think if your heart is being pulled there, that's what you should do, because, it's like, that's what we want. We want people's hearts in it. And I mean, yeah, you sound like you got a big heart, Robin, and you could be all over this, but I would suggest you stick with the two committees that you feel strong about, so that you're drawn to. Yeah. All right, Jeremiah.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that Member Lopez, that you could be on more than two. You could be on 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. It depends on what you want to. I just want to let you know that I would really like your help if you would want to be on housing or mental health or youth. I could really use some participation there. I would really appreciate it. I'm kind of struggling on getting these reports put together. So if you want to help out with, we could just meet possibly, for about 15 minutes a month regarding each subcommittee. It wouldn't take that long. It's just maybe 15 minutes. That way we can put something together. So I'd really appreciate some participation on subcommittees that I'm working on.
Robin.
Thank you very much for your invitation, Jeremiah. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to respectfully decline putting myself up more than I can handle in terms of bandwidth. Aside from raising my family, I don't know if the committee is aware, but I'm also trying to finish up my studies at UC Berkeley as a PhD candidate. So I just want to make sure I'm being strategic with my time. If it does turn out that some of the things I'm doing within the two subcommittees I'm looking to be a part of happen to intersect with other subcommittees, then yeah, there's room to talk. I believe in collective and mutual aid and support. So where we see fit.
Thanks, Robin. All right. I'm going to move us to future agenda items.
Well, do we need to make a motion to approve him on the subcommittees, or which two, for clarification, which ones is he going to be on now?
He's on Racial Equity Subcommittee and Youth Leadership.
Okay, great. Yeah, I motion to approve that if we need to.
And do we need to?
Yes, we should have that. Although restructuring is not on the agenda. Do we have a second?
I second it. Can I also put in my resignation from the Aging Disabled Homebound Subcommittee into this motion? Is that okay with you, Commissioner Pinguella?
Yeah. Is there anybody else left on it? I'd like to volunteer if there's nobody else left on it.
You'll be the only one on it. But,
okay, great. I'd like to...
Hey, Jeremiah, the thing is that the work is done in that committee.
Oh, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
Okay. So the motion right now, are you okay with Jim's amendment or whatever?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So did we have a second?
Yes.
No. Oh, we did.
Commissioner Lindsay seconded and resigned from.
Right. All right. Any comments? All right. Let's do the roll call vote, Ann.
So this is to add Commissioner Lopez to Racial Equity Subcommittee, as well as Youth Leadership Subcommittee, and to remove Commissioner Lindsay from Aging Disabled Homebound Subcommittee. Commissioner Bainan?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguella?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
And Chair Zapata?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Future agenda items. This is where we get to make any requests. Let's see, Jeremiah, and then I have a comment. Jeremiah?
Yes. For future agenda item, I would just like it to be the Berkeley Food Network to be allowed to have a spot on the future agenda to give a presentation, please. The Berkeley Food Network.
Yeah, we've been working with Berkeley Food Network, and they will be presenting, I believe, in September.
Yes, I spoke with her, and thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So the agenda item that I really would like to follow up on what Julie said earlier, which is around the I'm wondering if we can get some sort of presentation around the, oh my gosh, I wrote it down somewhere. It was the direct cash advances. So I'm not really sure. Anyway, that's something that I think is actually particularly the research and what Julie's talking about. So I'm going to request that. And Jim and then Jeremiah.
I think we might have to ask that be added to our work plan. But we could agendize maybe asking that it be added to our work plan. Because if I remember correctly, when we voted on the 15 items, that economic justice, stuff like that didn't make it. Because I remember that was one of my top items, but it didn't get in. So that's why I particularly remember that. But now that, you know, we could maybe take a couple items off, things we've already got done, we might be able then to ask council to put that on.
Thank you. Jeremiah?
Yeah, so I just want to keep the light on the issue about Golden Gate Fields. I'm not sure if we're able to put it on our future agenda, but I know there's a lot of community members in Albany speaking at city council and even during our social economic justice commissions in the past. There's been a lot of members of community voicing that, you know, they want some help with this sort of thing. So I would just kind of reminding everybody that Golden Gate Fields is a hot topic right now. Horses are still dying every week, and maybe we could put it on our agenda to at least talk about it, just have some discussion, or maybe, you know, in the future have a presentation from Golden Gate Fields. Maybe have a presentation from Golden Gate Fields and something like that. So I just wanted to give a shout out for that.
Thank you. Are there any other future agenda items or? All right, our next meeting is Wednesday, September 7th at 7 p.m. Look forward to seeing you all there. Have a great night.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Ann.
Just for clarification, and just so Commissioner Garrett Penguello understand that the Golden Gate Field is not part of the work plan too. And so if you want that item on, that will also need to be justified to the city council to be added to the work plan before we can have a presentation or have a discussion on it.
Okay, yeah, and I'll talk with you later about possibly creating a memo or something. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Ann. Have a good night.
Thanks, Ann. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.